Welcome to the Kingdom Academy, our brand new leadership academy that we've been putting together and working on for the past several months. Today is our first installment of teachings, and we are going to be working on several teachings. We will try to do one a week, if not several a month. But our hope and our goal is to be able to just provide a tremendous amount of leadership and knowledge and wisdom to all of you that have signed up and registered for the Academy. Today, we're going to begin with a lesson that we started on at the conference, but we're going to pick up again and give you a little bit of information and kind of stay on this path for a little bit. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of AI and the church, or the future of AI and our community or businesses. All of this is going to affect what is going to be happening, not in the next few years, but maybe in the next few days. And so we're trying to get this out to you as quick as possible with even more tools to put in your hands to have these conversations. So as I was thinking about this, and the reason I put so much urgency on this is because when I first talked about this in January, I said, what is AI going to look like starting today? Not starting in a year from now. Because in January, a lot of people didn't realize that in January you could buy an autonomous AI robot. For $20,000, you could put a robot into your home and it would do the dishes, it would vacuum, it would do your laundry, it would fold your laundry. There's all kinds of house chores that could happen at your house with an autonomous robot. We're now in February. That was a month ago that those robots started coming out. There's also new robots that are coming out produced by Tesla and AI robots that are Optimus robots. There's another one company called Iron that there was these manufacturers that put this robot together, and it was so realistic that the people, when they were doing the walkthrough on the show, the people that were in the audience were like, no, that's fake. There's a person inside of that suit. And they actually had to cut the robot open and cut some of the shielding off of it to show that, no, this is an actual robot that is walking down this row here. And so they're becoming so lifelike and so realistic that it's almost unbelievable. It's almost like if you've ever seen the movie I, Robot. Like, this is where we are. It's not in the future. You will see these robots walking down the streets in the very near future. In fact, if you go to other places like Phoenix, Austin, San Francisco, I just got off the plane in Phoenix last week, and it almost seemed like every fifth or sixth car that was picking people up in the Uber aisle and the Lyft aisle, they were all driverless. So many cars that people were just jumping into, there was nobody in the driver's seat. And this was like every fifth car that would go by was a driverless car. It was a Waymo car. This isn't in the future, guys. This is today. This is what's happening now. In fact, there are some people talking about we might even see a flying car starting in 2027. That's like the Jetsons. That's like unrealistic. Like, how could that even possibly be? A flying car that's going to pick me up and take me to my work. It's coming. You're going to see so many changes over the next few years. In fact, some kids, teenagers who don't have their license yet, they may never get the opportunity to drive. It's only a matter of time. And so, as I was looking at this, I was amazed beyond just the technology of cars. We've also moved into this area of AI friends. You can have all your friends and they'll be robots, or AI chatbots, or look this up, this is crazy. You can have AI lovers, you can have AI marriages, you can have AI kids, you can have AI life coaches, you can have AI counselors, and here's the scariest one. They're actually producing, starting in 2026, AI teddy bears for your children. For young kids, they have a teddy bear, and this teddy bear has an AI chip in it that will talk to your child. What is it saying? What is this teddy bear actually going to be saying to your kids? There are AI clones, there are AI agents, there are agents that will actually do your work for you while you're sleeping. If you need to book a trip, or you have on your calendar, you have all these things that you need to go out of town, you need a flight, you have all these things, you leave the next day, your AI agent, your clone, has already done that for you. It'll have your credit card, it'll have your driver's license, it'll have all your information. All you have to say is, hey, can you get my trip and all my hotel expenses, and make sure I have a car ready, so when I show up, all of that will be booked by tomorrow. Done. You don't have to do anything. This started a few years back with the introduction of social media. As I look at social media and the effects of social media, have they been positive? Have they been good for society? I can show you the data, I can show you the stats, I can show you that social media has created a storm of anxiety, depression, and even suicide. There's been a loss of moral compass, a loss of truth, a loss of story, a loss of authenticity. And if that was what was created from social media, the beginning of AI, how will an AI revolution change all of society? Will it benefit us as humans? Now, there are three different ideas that the experts like to talk about. There are these ideas that there will be three potential futures with AI. The one that people love to talk about is the Terminator AI, where instantaneously humanity will cease to exist because of these robots turning against humanity. And you already have billionaires that have these places out in the middle of nowhere where these bunkers and all this stuff where they can escape to in case that happens. Okay, that's one theory. You also have a theory that is more like the movie WALL-E, where humans don't have to do anything except sit on these little pads and they float us around everywhere, and everything is prepared for us, cooked for us. We can even, well, we don't even play anymore. We watch ourselves playing on a screen. That doesn't sound too good. And then the last one, which is the one that I have the most hope for, and that's the idea of Star Trek. I don't know if you've ever watched Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek was something that was created in the 70s, then they made movies in the 80s, and then the early 2000s, they revamped it and brought it back. But it's this idea that there will be a future that AI will work with us, that will take us into the galaxies, and we will explore new worlds and new universes. This is something that, if we look at AI, is exciting. This is the most beneficial. We can say this is where AI is going to take us, and we can do so much with AI. It is going to enhance and take us to new places and new revelations that we've never experienced before. So what should we expect? If we look at history as our guide, and this is something that I teach a lot about. History, in a Western perspective, is linear. We started here and we ended up over here. But from a biblical perspective, or from an Eastern perspective, history is more like a slinky. It rotates, it's circular and repeats, but never exactly the same. Because every time it starts to repeat, we get the choice of how we want to make the decision this time. And if we know history, we can say, let's not make that mistake again. Unfortunately, too many people don't know history anymore, and we've lost that. And the more that we get sucked into social media and to AI and stop digging and stop learning, the more we'll forget the past. But humans are humans. And we have to realize that in all of history, there are patterns that take place in history. There are patterns that take place in humans. In fact, AI, all the AI models were created to understand patterns. Because as human beings, everything we do is built on patterns. And so it learns to recognize the patterns that you live your life in, and then it mimics those. And so patterns are extremely important for humanity. In fact, thousands of years ago, when we were hunters and gatherers, we learned the importance of patterns. There was 4 patterns that were extremely important, and that was the patterns of seasons. There was 4 seasons that our early ancestors had to learn and understand. Now, living in New Orleans, I've learned that the seasons that most people talk about are not the same seasons that we have here. In New Orleans, we have Saint season, Mardi Gras season, we have crawfish season, and then we have hurricane season. Now, the patterns that our ancestors learned were a little bit different. They were the patterns of fall, winter, spring, and summer. And these patterns that our ancestors figured out have so much to do with not just the seasons of weather and change, but they also affect us. And there's a correlation, there's a direct correlation between the seasons and how they affect us. If we break these seasons up in the fall, we'll start with fall. Fall is the time, the first season, it's the time to plant. You plant for your future so that you can reap later on. As I looked at this, I wondered, what are we planting? What are we planting for our future? What are we sowing into ourselves, into our community, into the things that are important for our future? Aesop's Fables talks about the idea of the ants and the grasshoppers. And I don't need to explain it to you here, but if you haven't read Aesop Fables, go and learn that story of what happens to the ants and the grasshoppers. As we talk about AI, as we learn more about this technology, we must ask the question, what is coming? What will people need? And as leaders, how are you positioning yourself to serve, to help, and to influence? These are extremely important questions because the next season after fall is winter. And what is winter? Winter is time of snow or ice or sleet. It's a difficult time. It's hard. It's disruption. I remember when we had snow last year, everything gets shut down for a week. Nothing happens. Well, what happens when winter comes metaphorically with this? Disruption is coming. There will be a period of hard times. There will be a period where jobs are cut, where more people will be disengaged with life. More people will be asking, does my life have any meaning? These are questions that we have to be prepared for. The next season is spring. What is spring? Spring is about renewal. Spring is it's a time to reap what was planted. It's a time of optimism. It's a time of new creations. It's a time where all of these things that we've been waiting for are now at our fingertips. Which then leads us to summer. Because spring was great, summer is a time of play. It's a time of testing. And if we look back, we see these patterns all throughout history. In fact, the 4 that come instantly to mind was the 1920s. What was the 1920s? It was a time of the flappers and lots of money, and Wall Street was exploding, and the car was now invented, and people were driving these new fandangled cars, and we didn't need horses and carriages anymore, and everything was great. But were we preparing for fall? Or were we preparing for winter? Because in the 1930s, what took place? The Great Crash, the Great Depression, the Dust Bowls, where people lost thousands, if not millions of dollars. People's lives were changed. People had to move from everything that they knew to go to a different place. People learned that they had to save because they never knew when the next depression was coming. That was winter. Out of the 1930s comes the 1940s. What happened in the 1940s? War breaks out. World War. Germany, Japan. War was a time of creativity. It was an opportunity to build new things, new creations. It was a time of renewal. It was the time that led us out of the Great Depression. Then we headed into what? The 1950s. The TV show, Happy Days. summed it up like these were the days that were great. These were the days where we had fun, where we played, where everything was going well. This was summer. And every season we have to recognize has its purpose. And change is inevitable. But change does not equal progress. From everything that I have been learning, we are currently on the cusp of fall and winter. We have tough times that are coming. The question is, will we be prepared? Will you be prepared? So what do we do? What do we need to do as leaders to start preparing for these times? As I thought about this and wrote a lot about this, I realized that there's probably 3 things we should start with. 3 crucial things that are important for community, whether you are a church or government or education or first responders. These 3 things I think apply to every group. Number 1, the first thing that we have to focus on is what? Identity. Who are you? What is your story? As human beings, we have to recognize we're all story-driven. We all have a story that we tell ourselves. It affects every decision you make, no matter what job you have. The story that is in your mind that you've been told or someone told you is a part of what affects every decision you make, subconsciously or consciously. Sometimes we make decisions based on how our gut feels, or maybe we make decisions and we don't realize, why did I even decide to do that? Why did I choose that decision? We don't even know. But it happens because this is a story that is taking place in our lives. And in my book, in one of the chapters in my book, selfish plug, sorry, but in my book I go into much greater detail. So if you want to learn more about this, please check out my book. But so many people in our culture today struggle with anxiety, depression, trauma because of who they think they are, who they were told by somebody else, this is who you are. Listen to me for 1 second. How many have heard this message? You're no good. You'll never amount to anything. You'll never be good enough. You'll never be as good as your brother or your sister or fill in the blank. You'll never be successful. You'll never have enough money because money's just too hard to come by. You'll fill in the blank. What is the story that you've told yourself or reaffirmed this message that has been planted in you? Because this is the message that is holding you back. There's a story that I wrote about a little while ago of an ancient teacher, a rabbi, who looked at the Bible and he said, the Bible is out of order. The Bible starts in Genesis and then goes to Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. He said the first book of the Bible should actually be the Exodus story, not Genesis. Because it wasn't until the Exodus story that we find these people who for 400 years were told, you're not good enough. You're nothing more than a slave. You'll never amount to anything. There's no good in you whatsoever. You're about as valuable as a dog. All you are good for is doing the work that we tell you to do. Other than that, you have no value whatsoever. And this is the story that these people had heard for decades. Generations of family members were told, this is who you are. And then a miracle happens, and these people are taken out of Egypt and into the desert. And what happens when they're in the desert? They're given a new story. God comes to Moses, he says, no, tell these people this is not who they are. These people are now going to be a kingdom of priests. They're going to be a royal nation. They're going to be royalty. Wait a second, I thought I was a slave. I thought I was nothing. I thought I was worthless. I thought there was no value to my life. You're taking me out of the desert for what? What am I going to accomplish? I'm nothing more than a slave. No. You are royalty. You are a kingdom of priests. You are going to do great things. And let me tell you, I'm going to give you a new story. And then this is where the story of Adam and Eve and all the other stories that come from the Bible and the book of Genesis. This is who your true story is. This is who you really are. You're not perfect, okay? Your ancestors, your heritage, they made mistakes. But this is who you are. This is the real you. This is your identity. And every one of us has to understand who we are, because it's our identity that will either help us to succeed or identity which will hold us back in bondage. We will live in a world of Egypt that is always holding us back, never allowing us to succeed, never allowing us to have good marriage, never allowing us to make a better rank, never allowing us to do something that we really want to do, but the message inside of our head is always holding us back, and we self-sabotage and we destroy ourselves. Every single person needs to know who they are, your true identity. That is what's important. Number 2, the second thing that we all need to know as we move into this new future is community. What's community? What is your idea of community? What really is community? Community is this idea of having someone in your life who says, I know who you really are. And they actually ask you, hey, how are you doing today? And before you answer, they wait. They want to actually know who you are. Now, most people today say, hey, how are you? As they continue to walk by, they don't wait for a response, or maybe it's just a head nod or, fist bump, but there's no genuine connection of like, hey, tell me how you are today. I want to know what is going on in your life. Community is that person who actually cares about you as a person. Community goes beyond that, the idea of, what are you doing for me? It's today's culture, let me say it this way. Today's culture lives on superficiality. My friend Aaron calls it this. He calls it the sports and weather culture, where most people, when they have a conversation, the furthest that they can get in this conversation is to talk about the weather or sports. Once they've talked about that, there's nothing left to talk about. I don't know anything about you. All I know is that you like LSU, or you like the Saints, or you like this, or you like that. Oh, and it's so humid today. It's this or that. I mean, it's rainy. What's it going to be like tomorrow? Okay, great. All right, well, I'll see you later. Real community has depth. It's genuine. It has authentic, real conversations. Community is, I know who you are and you know who I am. You know my crap. You know where I stumble and fall, and you know that you can come into my life and say, hey man, are you sure you want to be doing that? Is this the direction you want to be going? I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Are you sure you want to make that decision? A friend of mine shared something with me from the Bible that blew my mind. There's a passage in the Bible where Jesus is talking on the Sermon on the Mount. And in most translations, he says that we are to follow the narrow path or the straight path. And if you look that word up, the idea of the straight isn't what we typically think of. It's actually, in the Bible, it's spelled S-T-R-A-I-T, straight, as in it's this large body of water that passes through these walls. That's what a strait is. You have all this water and it's moving, and as it's coming closer and closer together, there are these walls that the water has to force itself through. And it's when it goes through this strait, this body of water moves through these two walls, it increases in power and speed and force, and it becomes this raging thing that moves forward into doing great things. And so many of us in our lives don't have a strait. They don't have these people in our lives that are going to push us to become better and powerful and more effective and the best human beings that we can be. And when you don't have a strait in your life, you're like a body of water, kind of like Pontchartrain, where it's just It's this large body of water, but how deep really is it? I remember walking out the first time I moved here 20 years ago. I'm like, well, this is a great body of water. I walked out there. I walked almost a half a mile, and the water never got above my thighs. Like, there's nothing here. There's no depth to it. As human beings, we all need these people in our lives that are going to force us and to move in a direction. We need these people in our lives. Society has become fractured because of social media and or politics. And it's today more than ever that we need people that we can trust, that we trust that they actually care about us because of who I am, not because of what I can give them. And there will be an inner desire. This will grow and expand. People will want something real. I mean, too often, like, you watch reels and you watch this and you watch that, and we are starting to see more and more AI videos and more AI stuff, and we recognize this isn't real. So there's going to be a craving, a desire. I just want to know you. Just have a real conversation with me. This is already taking place. Because as human beings, this is how we were created. We were created for community. Number 3. And this is something we're going to spend a lot more time on over this next year. Number 3 is meaning. What is meaning? Where do you find meaning? Now, for men especially, this is something that affects most men, because men find meaning typically in their jobs. They find meaning because I provide for my family. They find meaning because I've moved up the ranks and I have a higher position, or I have a title. I'm able to do this stuff, and I find meaning in what I do. But what happens if a robot replaces your job? What happens if AI replaces what you do? What happens if, well, maybe it doesn't replace it, but maybe AI is used in such a way where you get to use it and it benefits you and it makes you so productive and it does so much of your work where you're really not doing hardly anything anymore. Now what? Your work's done and you still have hours left to go. There's only so many Facebook Reels, social media, shorts, YouTube, whatever, that you can watch before the laziness consumes you and says, is this all there is to life? Is this all that we have? Is there anything more to life than this? Most people think about life in a way that doesn't benefit them. Most people think about life, and we have to make this paradigm shift right here and now. As we move forward in the future, there has to be a paradigm shift where we move from people thinking, what can I get out of life, to what can I give? Instead of saying, what can I get from this job? What can I get from this marriage? What can I get from this friendship? What can I get from this party? What can I get from this conference? What can you give me? We have to have a paradigm shift in this life where we move from what can I get from me to what can I give to this? What can I give to my job? What can I give to my family? What can I give to this community? What can I give to St. Bernard, to New Orleans? What can I give to the state of Louisiana? What can I give to the United States? What can I give? This shift has to take place. This is what helps me find real, authentic joy. Joy is found not in the getting, it's found in the giving. In fact, this is a passage that is written after the Gospels, but it's accounted to Jesus, where Jesus says, it is better to give than to receive. This is ancient wisdom. This wisdom is thousands of years old. It's not new. We've just forgot it. It's time to remember what wisdom has taught us over the years, that it is better to give. I find joy, fulfillment in life when I give of myself, when I give of my talents, when I give of my knowledge or my wisdom, when I give of my finances, as opposed to thinking, what can I get out of life? What can I bring to the table? How can I help my company become better? To do these things, sometimes we have to shift as well to what am I learning to improve myself? How am I growing as a leader so that I can give back? So that I'm not just apathetically showing up to my job saying, well, my job, there's not much for me to do today. Here's the truth about leadership. Nothing changes until I change. So many people want to say, well, something needs to change, somebody needs to change, and I love to point the fingers. All these people need to change. But one thing I found in my life, whether it be in marriage, parenting, running a business, if I want things to get better, I have to learn how to become better at what I do to make things better. If I want my wife to be more patient with me, more loving with me, I first need to become more patient. This is how life works. Nothing changes until I change. If I want a better future, what am I doing to prepare myself first for that future? How will you give of your time, of your knowledge, of your talents? This is where genuine meaning is found. And we have to move our society in that direction. What am I giving? Now, St. Bernard, living in this parish, this is a very resilient community. We've gone through hurricanes, tornadoes, power outages, flooding. This community rallies really well in natural disasters. But what is coming is something that we've never experienced before. The challenge is this: how are you preparing for winter? We are in fall. What are you planting? How are you preparing? How are you preparing for disruption? How are you preparing to work with AI? So here's where we are. I need you to stay tuned to the Kingdom Academy, because every week we are going to be trying to address some of these issues and giving you tools and knowledge and ancient wisdom and sometimes psychology to help you become the best leader that you can be, to help you improve. This is our hope. This is our goal. And so you need to stay tuned to what's going on. So make sure that you sign up. Make sure that you are always logging on. Make sure that you're checking out all the updated videos, because we want to help you become the best leader you can be. So may the Lord bless you. May He keep you. And may He shine His face on you. And may you become who He created you to be.